Good morning, everybody, to today's version of the 9 a.m. spot. We're happy to have you. And today we have a very exciting guest today, and I'm Bruce Singer. I'm host of this event. Just tell you a bit about myself is I am CEO of CFO Services by Bizon Capital Corporation, which provides chief financial officers to companies on a part-time basis, a contract basis, and we love what we do. So today I have a very exciting guest today. My very exciting guest is Sabita Singh. She is a fabulous individual, an expert on LinkedIn. She's president of Triveta Consulting. A bit about Sabita. Prior to forming her company in 2018, she led the digital functions for companies including KPMG Canada, AstraZeneca, Sun Life, a lot of things at KPMG. Basically, she was involved in coaching every single partner on how to set up a LinkedIn profile and enhance their personal brand on LinkedIn. So she's involved in career development. She'll help you with business opportunities, all to do with LinkedIn. We're very proud to have her, and welcome, Sabita.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much, Bruce, for that introduction and for inviting me to be part of your show today.
Thank you so much. So let's start, Sabita. Why is LinkedIn even relevant or important? And what today's society? Give us your insights.
Sure, no problem. So I
the
mean,
dots.
really,
Yes.
in today's society, especially with COVID, that's obviously just hit us in such a big way over the past few months. You know, keeping your network strong is such a critical part of being a professional, whether you're working for yourself or working for a company. And as we know, we can't meet and connect with anybody face to face right now. It's very challenging to do. So keeping your network strong through LinkedIn is extremely important. And doing that just by, staying in touch with your network. I know for myself, since starting my own business as a LinkedIn coach and a LinkedIn profile writer, that a lot of my clients are basically coming from my former roles, as you mentioned, working for KPMG and Sun Life Financial and AstraZeneca. It's so easy to stay connected with those individuals or figure out where they are. If we still had our Rolodexes, I don't think any of that would be up to date or really relevant anymore. The digital world makes it so much easier, right?
Yep. And we met a couple of months ago, which was great. I kind of found you because I looked at my own LinkedIn profile.
You found me on LinkedIn, right?
Well, because my own LinkedIn profile is a disaster, but that's another story. Okay.
I can work on that with you, no problem.
No, I'm a client, we're working together. Yeah. Okay. So what does it mean? You talked about, hey, I like turning people into LinkedIn All-Stars.
That's right.
Okay. What does that mean?
So All-Star is a rating that's given out by LinkedIn to profiles that have 7 key criteria. So things like having a photo on your profile is critically important. If you have a photo on your profile, you get 21 times more views than profiles that don't have a photo, right? If you have an all-star profile, which has those 7 key criteria, your profile overall gets 40 times more views than profiles that are missing.
Wow.
So it makes a big difference. Some of those elements could be things like you've got to make sure you have at least 5 skills listed. You have to have at least 50 connections. So when I work with my clients, I make sure that those 7 things are all taken care of. But I also believe there's a couple of extra big bonus branding tips around having a good LinkedIn profile. For example, your about section. I think, for a lot of people, and this is how we built them back in the day. Our LinkedIn profile, we took a couple of components from our resume, added that onto LinkedIn, and that was pretty much what we did. We called it a day. Some of you might still have that same, little resume rehash on your profile even today. So the key with LinkedIn is just the more you share about yourself, the more people are going to want to connect with you. So don't just have a couple of snippets about being a CPA that has been working in the field for 20 years, but really get into who you are, why you're passionate about what you do, what makes you unique, why should clients work with you? All of those things help create a profile that's engaging, that's going to actually attract connections. And that's the difference as well between just kind of a standard profile and one that's really going to get results for you overall.
Okay, so you build the profile, and then you talk about, okay, so now what?
Right, so that's true.
So if you already built the profile, yeah.
So what I say to my clients is it's not enough to have a great profile and just wait for people to come find you on LinkedIn. What you've got to do, and I believe that activity equals visibility on LinkedIn. Okay. You can't just have the profile. You really got to be engaging with your connections on a regular basis to make sure that they're seeing you in their newsfeed. So think about it for yourselves. when you go to LinkedIn and you look at the newsfeed, you can see what other people are saying, whether they're commenting on content, they're sharing content, they're congratulating someone on a work anniversary, all of those things. Every time you see someone in your newsfeed, they're top of mind, right? You want to make sure you've got the same experience happening for you too, especially if you're running your own business. The more that people see you, the more people are going to want to connect with you or remember that you offer the services that you provide. This worked for me amazingly well about a month ago, actually just before COVID hit. So I had an experience where I had a colleague of mine that I worked with at AstraZeneca 20 years ago. She runs her own creative agency. And just before COVID hit, she said, I've been seeing your activity on LinkedIn, and I think you could help me with my own profile. So after 20 years of just staying generally connected on LinkedIn, she reached
Wow.
out and she became a client. And that's what you want to have happen for yourself too, if you're an entrepreneur.
I'm very curious, look, what are the common, getting back to I want to get back to the profile too for a second.
Sure.
What are the common mistakes or common faux pas that you see on a LinkedIn profile? There's got to be some common ones.
Sure.
Just
So
curious.
one of the biggest ones, like I said, is just having a couple of lines there that are just very basic. So some people don't even have an about section at all, which they should, right? You should make sure that your about section is not in third person. I think a lot of people back in the day, they're written as, Bruce Springer is a blah, blah, blah. It really should say I am, this is my business, this is what I like to do, because you're making a one-to-one connection. When you're in third person, it becomes very impersonal, right? So that's one thing. If you are an entrepreneur, making sure that you don't sell yourself too quickly, because once again, people need to get to know you and build a relationship with you before you sell. You sell too quickly on LinkedIn, it's just going to turn people off. LinkedIn's not about selling. It's about building the relationship. So it's got to be a slow, steady process. There's an etiquette to follow on LinkedIn. You don't want to ask for a sale too quickly. You don't want to ask for anything too quickly. You really want people to get to know you first. So the more personal you are in your profile, the better it is. Also, if you're like in, if you're, in an accountant within a professional services firm, what happens is with your headline, for example, LinkedIn will just take your default headline in terms of your title and your first role and put it up as your attention-grabbing headline. And what I do suggest there is that you add a bit more to your headline, because when people are seeing you in their newsfeed, you want that headline to be attention-grabbing so that people go, hey, I want to learn more about you. So for example, my headline, for example, says LinkedIn coach, LinkedIn profile writer, helping clients attract new business opportunities and career opportunities on LinkedIn. I've got all of that in 120 characters. And I know for sure, based on having that there, that's how I'm getting business as well. So it's making sure you go a step further in that headline that gets attention, it gets people over to your profile, and they ultimately connect with you. So go beyond that generic, it just says that whatever your title is at the company you work at, and take it a step further to add that tagline, that caption.
One thing, just to get, I'm going to relate just maybe to my own personal experience. I'm like afraid, I have my own personal fear is I'm afraid sometimes, am I saying the right thing? Am I saying the wrong thing? And that's a whole other discussion. But I'm sure you experience it. So I get all tongue twisted because I'm over analyzing and rechanging and analyzing because do I say the wrong thing or the right thing?
And it totally can be nerve-wracking, right? Especially if you've never done it before. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients that are executives that have, worked at companies where they've had their marketing or communications person or their admin assistant who has been managing their profile for many years. They lose their job, unfortunately, and it's now really up to them to manage their presence themselves.
Yeah.
And I talk to them about being active and visible, right? So, but when you're trying to put together that first post and knowing it's going out to 500 or 1,000 people and you're not sure about the tone or the style, it can get nerve-wracking. So one of the first things I say to my clients is that it's okay, you can make a mistake. So all through LinkedIn, like if you put a post up, you're going to see 3 dots next to it. As soon as you click on those 3 dots, for example, let's say you have a typo in your post, you can go on those 3 dots, edit the post, fix the typo, put it back up. Okay. If you've had a couple of glasses too many of wine the night before and you look at your post the next day and you're like, what was I thinking putting up this post, you can actually go in and you can delete that post as well, right? So I'd rather that people become more active on LinkedIn than be a voyeur, because as a voyeur, you're not going to have the results that you want. So you've just really got to take that step and definitely double, triple check what you're putting up. You want to make sure it looks good. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. And I think the biggest thing is speaking from the heart. The more you tell a story, the more you speak from the heart, the more that you're more real. Like if you're sharing somebody's content, share it because it's of value to your network, not just because you want to share it to build your own following, right? It's got to be something you believe in that you think is going to be relevant for your network in order for it to actually, do well on LinkedIn and get great engagement.
I got it. Okay. So I'm going to talk about what I think is a big issue. Okay.
Okay.
Is, man, Sabina. Okay. I got my profile. I get it. Okay. Man, I'm busy because I'm in the accounting field. I'm an accountant. I got fires to put out. I'm busy. I'm swamped. I'm busy. Hey, this seems like it's going to be a ton of time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I don't got time for this. Okay. That's been, you get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
I do a lot of like group coaching sessions, and I've spoken at a lot of events. And one of the biggest questions I get asked is, how much time do I need to spend on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
I would say, depending on what you're doing, like for example, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for business leads, or you are in transition, you're looking for a new role, I would say just even 5 to 10 minutes a day could be of great value for you. Because again, what I'd suggest that you do is you kind of go onto LinkedIn every day, whether it's when you're having your coffee or having your lunch, go through the newsfeed, see what's there, like the content that you like, comment on content that you're seeing, share content that you like. And every time you're doing that, again, people are seeing you in their newsfeed, which is the critical part. The more that you engage with your connections on a regular basis, the more you're building those really good relationships overall that hopefully are going to really do well for you over time as well. So I'd say 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes, a week, whatever it might be. But you just want to get into that newsfeed on a regular basis, engage, be visible, and that's all it has to be at the very base level. If you want to take it a step further and be seen as an expert in your space, which is a lot of what I was building as I built digital training programs for KPMG, for example, we wanted to, as a firm, be seen as an expert in all the different industries that we went to market in, whether it's financial services or mining or the public sector. We would put out thought leadership reports. And then my team, my digital team and myself, we would take snippets of those reports and share them out on LinkedIn on a regular basis. And that's, again, to build trust, to show that we understand the industries that we're working in. The same can be said for smaller companies and individuals too. You really want to become seen as an expert, so people either are giving you your next amazing job or they're coming to you for business, right? So, one of the stats I like to share is, 81% of people that are interviewed that are CFOs, managers, all the way through decision makers, said that when they see somebody put out thought leadership regularly on LinkedIn, and when they see that individual or that organization is an expert, 81% of them then award business to that organization that way because you're building trust, right? So it's those kinds of stats. You really want to be putting out a steady stream of content. I put out content regularly around LinkedIn because I want to be seen as a LinkedIn expert, right? A lot of my entrepreneurial clients, I say the same thing to them, whether they're in HR and they want to show that they've got great experience in the areas of diversity or leadership. If they're a chief operating officer and they want to show they have a lot of experience in digital transformation for companies. You want to keep putting out good content around the topics you want to be known for so that people ultimately want to work with you and give business to you.
Interesting. We have a lot of work to do.
But again, at the very base level, 5 to 10 minutes a day. Yeah.
It absolutely will pay off. So what are the common, and by the way, a couple things, just I encourage people, if you like to turn on your videos, go ahead. Because remember, it's all about stepping out of our comfort zones. Okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes, so here's an opportunity, step out of your comfort zone, turn on your video, and we're going to, even if you want to ask questions to Sabina, that's all welcome. We can put them in the, please feel free, you can put them in the, there's a chat, I believe there's a chat section, put them on, I'll bring them up. But that's good, thank you. Okay, so what are the common fears and we talked a little bit about it, but expand on that. What are the common fears or common roadblocks or whatever, that kind of top, what are the common that hold people back?
I think especially for people that are in fairly senior roles, executives and directors and above, I mean, you name it. I think when they're working in the corporate world and they're working in a job, and I've done this too. I've been in those roles where you're just kind of heads down trying to get through your day. You don't have a lot of time for LinkedIn. But Google's the #1 reason why you should spend time on LinkedIn, because if someone is checking you out on LinkedIn, whether it's a colleague, whether it's the president of your company, whether it's a potential business lead, a vendor, you name it, when they Google your name, your LinkedIn profile is going to come up as one of those top 3 searches. So you want to make sure that what shows up there represents your brand in the best possible way. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to yourself. If your profile looks dated, if you haven't updated it in 5 years, if it's missing key information, that's a reflection on you. So if you do nothing else, make sure you go back, look at your profile, make sure it looks fresh, make sure it's current, make sure the information is accurate. Put a little bit about your work experience, about the roles that you've had, and at the very least, make sure you've got a bit of something in your about section to explain who you are and what you're about, right? So, that's one of the things I find back in the day, especially when I was working at KPMG, a lot of our accounting partners, I don't have time for LinkedIn. LinkedIn's for people that are looking for jobs. It's not anymore, right? LinkedIn is it's really your professional brand. When people are Googling you, that's what they see. You want to make sure that looks really, really solid, reflects you well.
No, you're right, because I think there was, or maybe there still is, a misperception that LinkedIn is basically a glorified resume.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And am I right? That is a very, I hate to say it, a short-sighted.
Yes.
And not being critical to anybody, because we all have to learn.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
100%. Yeah, I think a lot of people just think, I think it started out really as a place to go find a new job.
Yeah.
But now, especially now with COVID, it's probably one of the top ways to stay connected to your network because you can't see people anymore, right? So it's really important, I think, to take the time to stay active. I mean, I got really good advice years ago that always keep your network strong because you never know when you're going to need them. The last thing you want to have happen is if you lose your job, let's say in the next month or two, and you haven't talked to some of your colleagues in 10 or 20 years, and you're reaching out to them for help with a job. They're like, why are you coming to me now? It just doesn't feel right. You want to make sure you keep those relationships, even a couple of times a year, even just like, again, just congratulating somebody on a work anniversary once a year, commenting on what they posted, all of that goes a long way to keeping that relationship strong without a ton of effort, right? But that way you're not embarrassed when you go to them and go, hey, can you give me a hand? And do you know anyone that could help me find a job? I just lost my job because of COVID or anything else.
Well.
Yeah.
We have some questions coming in, and I encourage you, we're getting to some Q&A, so please feel free to pop some questions. One of the questions, what is a premium account? What does it mean? What does it mean for this person? What is that? Why would I pay for it? Why would I even bother?
Right. Yeah. So that is a good question. So first of all, I don't work for LinkedIn. I'm not associated with them. I'm not trying to sell licenses by any means. And I would say that in most cases, a free membership is just fine. That's probably what most people need, right? If you have a premium membership, one of the biggest things I think is of value there is you can always go in and see who's viewed your profile, right? And if you have a free membership, you really only get to see a small, maybe it's, a few people that have checked out your profile. But if you have a premium membership, you get to see a much more robust listing of individuals that have checked you out. And then based on that, you can go in and just reach back out to those individuals and connect with them and just, start to build a relationship that way. Especially if you're looking for a new job, it's almost worth maybe getting a premium account for a few months until you land that next job so you can see who's looking at you. With an advanced, a more premium package too, you get more search options as well. So let's say you're an entrepreneur or business owner, you may want to be doing some very targeted searches to find the right clientele for your business, right? So that again is something that you can do with a premium account. There's in-mail credits as well with a premium account. So if someone is a first degree connection, someone that's connected directly with you, you can message them through the LinkedIn messaging part of the platform anytime. But if it's someone that you're not connected with, you kind of need to do use an in-mail credit to be able to reach out to them. So the premium account, you get several of those credits that you can use as well. So it's all about, I think, what your goals are with LinkedIn as to whether or not it makes sense to get a premium account or not. But I think most of the features that you want to use are really in a free account. But the good thing, just try it out for a month. They give a lot of free trials. Try it out for a month, see what you think. And if you find it of value, keep the membership.
Thank you. Well, there's a question came in from Praveen,
Mm-hmm.
who's a very loyal supporter. Okay, if that's okay. Praveen asks, could you please, feel free, Praveen, you want to ask the question? You can ask it if you want. You want to ask Sabita a question? Turn off, you got to
We're putting Praveen on the spot now.
It's okay. I put people on the spot. We're called an M spot. So
that makes sense.
Put in your audio. Your audio's got to go on. He likes to talk. Your audio.
I think you're on mute right now, Praveen. So maybe just hit there you are.
Yeah. So Savita, just wanted to check up, like many people, they just write one line in their LinkedIn profile from this company, they work from this time to that time. They don't elaborate what exactly their functions, what they have done. So my concern is like, do you have to like elaborate in every job, like whatever you have done in your LinkedIn profile? It's like your resume, or just like in a summary form, you have to just tell that you worked and this was your function and this is your achievement?
Right. Yeah. Excellent question. So it's a few things there. I think for the first, your current role or your last two roles, a little bit of detail there is always good. So what I tend to, when I work with my clients, I'll tell them, give me your mandate. What's an overarching statement that describes what your role is within this position. And then I'll ask them also for just a few bullet points that are showing not just what they did, but the impact that they had, right? So wherever you can use stats and metrics to demonstrate the value of what you've done for the organization, right? So I would say for your current role and maybe one or two previous roles, you go into that kind of level of depth. For your earlier roles, let's say they were 20, 30 years ago, especially if you're looking for a new job, for example, I would say list them. Maybe you've just got the overarching statement, the mandate. But at the very least, you want to show everything. So I work a lot with recruiters now, and they say they do want to see that whole career history. So you don't have to put a lot of detail on your role from 20 to 30 years ago, but you want to know that you worked at XX company, what your title was, and then they can see your career progression over the years, right?
No, but actually, in my case, I'm just doing mainly contract jobs. Mm-hmm. So I don't do like a permanent role with the company. So do I have to mention all the contract details in detail or just like a summary format, as a controller, I worked with this company and this period? Because,
so I'd say like if these contracts are all under your business, I think it's good to put a little bit of detail there. So basically you're trying to attract probably new contracts through LinkedIn, right? So I find, for example, what would help there is saying things like, the type of organizations you work with, the pain points you solve for them, the services you provide can be all part of what I call like your job ad on LinkedIn that sits as your current role and your work experience, describing how you work with clients. Are you available for contract roles, interim roles, fractional roles, all of that. You could put in your work experience or you could put in your about section. But I think because you're looking for additional contract roles, a little bit of detail about what you've done for the companies you've worked at is great. You don't have to list every single one and what you did. Yeah. But again, if someone's looking at you for a role going forward, you want to make sure you've got enough detail there that they're seeing why they'd want to work with you over somebody else. That's what you really want to demonstrate with your profile. Why should they come to you when there's a million other people that do what you do out there, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Another question came in. Actually, this came in from a few people. So is it possible, or tell us, being too active on LinkedIn, or is that even possible? Like, is there such a thing? Is there a balance? That's a couple people ask this. I'm curious about that one because I tend to be. Anyway, not getting into me, but that's a curious question.
So, when you think about LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram and you see somebody posting, they always talk about someone who's posted about what they had for breakfast and what they've had for lunch. It can drive you crazy, right? So I think there is a balance. I mean, the good thing on LinkedIn, it's mainly professional content. But I would say, you've got to strike the right balance. If you're posting several times a day and you're not getting a lot of engagement, that means you might be annoying people a bit, right? So I think you just want to, I think a few times a week is good. Maybe once a day is good. Engage with your network every day for sure. But in terms of content that you're putting out there, individual posts of your own, I think you strike the right balance based on how people are responding to that content. If no one's responding to your content, that means it's not hitting the right chord with people. It's not relevant for them, probably. Right? If you're getting lots of good engagement, that means you're doing the right thing. And keep up the great work, right?
So you can do, like, if people post, you want to make comments. It's a free for all. It's a free for all.
Do that all day, every day. That's a good thing to do. I mean, when you're putting up something and people are commenting on your post, you like that, right? It's a good thing, right? You're sparking engagement, or they're sparking engagement on your content, which is exactly what you want to have happen. So that's all good. It's really how often do you post an article or post, a short post on something that you've done. And if you're doing it multiple times a day and it's not getting a lot of interest, you might want to rethink how often you do that.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm going to ask another question, but if anybody wants to just raise their hand and wants to ask their question personally to Sabita, just give me a nod and you can turn yourself on and feel free to ask the question. But here's another one that came up. For a person who's currently working in a role, but wants to build a brand for a potential side hustle with the hope for becoming a real full-time job eventually, like a career coach or marketing expert, discreetly and under the radar. How can one successfully do this and leverage LinkedIn without raising flags to colleagues that your heart isn't in your current role anymore? That's actually a really
really good
it's
question.
Actually a very, very common thing. Yes.
Yeah, and I think especially now with COVID, a lot of people are really starting to think about, what they want to do with their career for the rest of their
Right.
lives, whether they've lost their job or they're nervous about the job that they're in, or they're just thinking, maybe now is the time to make that switch. And you're right, you've got to be discreet about it. The good thing with LinkedIn is it's not like a resume, because a resume is very structured. It's very, it's chronological. You've got to follow a certain order in most cases, right? So with LinkedIn, you can be a little bit more free flowing in terms of how you talk about yourself. So not that you want to show that you've got your current role and you're saying in your about section that you're now looking for a side hustle, but maybe you can talk a little bit about some other areas of passion that you have, right? Let's say it is in the HR space, you're in the coaching space. You can talk, you can tell your story in that about section. So you can talk primarily about your current role, but say, I also like to do this and this and this. And it just starts to plant the seed.
Interesting.
Then what I would say is, as people are starting to connect with you and reach out to you on the private messaging area, that's the area to really start to tell people what you're thinking about doing next, especially if they're people that have been part of your network or former colleague for many years. Hey, I'm doing, when you, for example, congratulate someone on a work anniversary, you say, hey, it's great to see that you're XX company for so many years. How you doing? They're going to love to hear from you. They're going to respond back. They're going to ask you how you're doing as well. When they do that, that's the opening for you to say, well, I'm doing this right now, but I'm really thinking about doing this next. What do you think? And that can open the door to people knowing that you're wanting to make that change without doing that openly on the front of your profile. You're doing that all through the messaging, right?
Wow, interesting. Okay, interesting. Another person who I know very well. Asked a very interesting question. Many people in my network simply repost articles and posts, etc. Is it more impactful to use one's own words rather than reposting?
What I recommend with my clients is you do a bit of both, right? So what I recommend is, for example, be a content aggregator. If you decide what your area of passion is, let's say it is around diversity, and you want to put up a lot of content in that area, right? You can put up your own content, things that you created yourself. Let's say you were on a webinar or your conference earlier this week, and there was some great nugget that came out of that. You can share a short post around that nugget, and that's your content. You can also, if you see other people in your network, because you're now following maybe diversity leaders, you can take their content and share it too. But my key is there, don't just share it with an insight. When you share it as with an insight, you're now being seen as an expert yourself, right? And then you can also write longer content like a LinkedIn article too. So it's a mix of everything. It's when you share somebody's content, that is such a big, positive thing you're doing for that individual, because it's not only going out on their network, you've now taken their content, you've amplified it on your network as well. They're going to remember that. And if it's relevant content for your network, your network's also going to appreciate it too. So it's all of it. It's, it's sharing content that you've created. It's sharing content that you've seen elsewhere. It's sharing content that other people have created within LinkedIn. All of that comes together to build your brand as an expert, but also to really help, demonstrate that you know what you're talking about.
That's right. Purva sent a text. Did you want to put your video and audio on, because you said you wanted to ask a question to Sabita? Purva? There he
Yes,
is.
how are you? Good morning, Bruce and Sabita. Thanks for this
Good
event.
morning. Good morning.
Quick question I have is, how do I find business groups on LinkedIn, maybe hidden or not hidden? And I'm a LinkedIn premium member already.
Okay. Yeah, and being part of LinkedIn groups is a really great way to add people to your network that you don't have, those third-degree connections, as you call it. So when you're on LinkedIn, if you go to search at the top of the page, you'll have the ability, like in the advanced search, to search under groups. You can search under companies, you can search under people, search under groups. And there pretty much is a group about practically everything on LinkedIn. I know when I was heading up digital marketing at KPMG, I got asked pretty much every week by a member of our marketing team if they could create a group, right? Some groups are better than others. Some groups are very passive. Some groups aren't managed well. Some are managed very well. So basically, you just go to the advanced search on LinkedIn. You look under groups. You type in a topic, whether it is like digital transformation. You type in. You're going to see all the groups available there. You want to basically request to join that group, and then be a voyeur for a couple of days and just see how active that group is and if it's worth your time. The best part of that, though, is looking to see who's in that group and reaching out and making a connection with them on LinkedIn, right? And just saying, I see that we're both part of the same group. Just want to stay connected with you. Look forward to being part of the group together, whatever the case may be.
And it's that simple. It's that simple.
That's simple. And that way you're connecting with people that you don't know because you've got a common ground or a common area through that group to start to build those relationships and build your network with the right kinds of people. And don't just look at people in groups that are similar to you. You're going to look at groups for your potential target audiences. That's where the magic really is, right?
Wow. Well, interesting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sabita. How can a professional customize his or her LinkedIn profile to every job that he or she is applying, as every job requires quite different skill sets? HR or recruiters want to see candidates. It's just a misspelling here. How a professional can manage, or how can a professional manage or balance this out?
Hey, Ritesh, nice to see you. I actually know Ritesh from a former life, so it's good to see you on the chat this morning. So that's really tough to do. I mean, as we know, even with resumes, it's very difficult to customize. It takes time. It's worth doing on a resume. You can do it a little bit on LinkedIn, but I would say you really probably need to keep your profile, your LinkedIn profile, maybe more general, and do the customization probably more on your resume. But again, you can update your about section. You can go into your work experience on LinkedIn. You can change up the bullet points there. There are things you can do, but I just think that's, it's a tough thing to do for every job, right? The skills section, for sure, as I mentioned earlier, as an all-star, you need to have at least 5 skills. I do know that recruiters, I would say go beyond 5, definitely have at least 15 to 20 skills. With recruiters, when they're searching for you, those skills do make a difference in terms of how you show up in their searches. So maybe that's something you want to adjust based on the different roles that you're applying for. You can keep adding more and more skills there so that you do show up in those searches for the recruiters and when they're looking to see if you're a right match for a job. Thanks, Ritesh.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions. This has been very insightful, by the way.
Excellent.
Really insightful. Thank you. What is the best way to source new business generation leads?
Great question too. So yes, I work a lot with entrepreneurs, and I would say, so the biggest thing to do first of all is to make sure that you've got a profile that really speaks to you as an entrepreneur. I might have mentioned earlier, what I see with a lot of entrepreneurs, they rush too fast to sell their services and they don't say who they are first. It literally starts off with, my services are this, this, and this. It's very marketing speak. It's like what's in your website copy. You don't want to speak like that on LinkedIn. You want to, again, build that relationship first, right? So I would say it's that tone and style of your profile that makes such a big difference. You want to make sure that your headline as an entrepreneur or someone looking for speaks very clearly to what you do. It should have keywords in your headline that when you think about someone, what are they going to type in to find your services? For example, I think I mentioned that, one part of my headline is LinkedIn profile writer. I had somebody reach out to me a couple of weeks ago from New York because that's what he needs for his company. He wants someone to write 10 profiles for his staff. So he did. He just typed in LinkedIn profile writer on LinkedIn and I came up. So that's how he reached out to me.
Wow.
So your headline is critical to getting that right. That's where I spend a lot of time with my clients, is making sure I've got the right keywords there that a potential client will use to find me, but also that there's a good tagline there that gets attention too. So I think those are the big things. It's making sure your profile is written well so it shows up in search when people are looking for you. And again, that second piece, activity equals visibility. You've got to be visible in the newsfeed so people see you, want to connect with you, and want to work with you. Like I said, a lot of my clients are coming to me now that used to work with me years ago, or even part of an association that I've belonged to since I was a student, because they're seeing my activity on LinkedIn and seeing my headline. They know what I'm doing now. It's different than what I was doing before, but they're coming to me because all of that is crystal clear now on the platform.
Okay. Then we're almost Joe. One more question. Then there was something I want to add. Joe McDonald said he wants to talk to you personally. And Joe, Joe. You got to take off your speaker. Yeah, Joe.
Good morning. Thank you.
Sorry. I apologize. It was Katie Mills. My apologies.
It was Katie, yes.
My apology. It said Joe
If she
McDonald.
wants to take over, that's fine.
My apology. Katie, my apology. Yeah.
Oh, can you unmute Katie, please? She has to unmute, you know.
There. Yeah, mine is an add-on to Joseph McDonald's question about confidentiality. I had unfortunately, rather scary experience with LinkedIn just the last couple of days
Oh, no.
where I was catfished. And they picked up my personal email from my LinkedIn profile, and I have reported them, blah, blah, blah. But in the process, I've had to go on and hide or make private some information. And in your view, what's the most important information about yourself that you should have public out there?
You know, I'd say, so first of all, I'm sorry to hear about your experience. That sounds awful.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's so scary to have that happen. You know, in general, what I do tend to my clients, especially if you're looking for a new job or if you're looking for business, is to share as much as you feel comfortable with, right? So I always tell people to include their email address, not just connect with me on LinkedIn, but also include your email address. If you're comfortable, include your phone number, right? So you just want to make sure it's as easy as possible for people to be able to reach you. And you want to go into your settings and do a really good check on the privacy settings, for example, and see how much you want to share. Because it'll let you just share with your connections. It'll let you share publicly. You can choose how much and how little you want to have show up. And I think the biggest things to do is to make sure that you're easy to reach, right? Especially if you want to connect with you. But for everybody, I'd say after this call, you know, just go into LinkedIn, go into your settings, just take a look through that all, and just make sure you're comfortable with how much you're sharing, how little you're sharing, and just make sure it feels right for you. You know?
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. Sabita, we're coming to an end. I just want to talk to you. So what, basically my recommendation is contact Sabita. Okay. Because it's a very, it's become, so tell us about you and you said you wanted to offer something. Just tell us about what's happening and how do people get hold of you?
For sure.
What is the best way to do this?
Yeah. So you know, my services where I help people, because I know a lot of people hate writing about themselves, right? Is I provide profile writing and coaching services for people. So I write that all-star profile for you, especially if you haven't updated your profile in many, many years. Definitely reach out to me and I can help you with that. And I make it really easy. I send people a questionnaire. They answer a bunch of thought-provoking questions, and I write that first-person career story for them. And then I do I provide a coaching session as well. Again, activity visibility. So how do you become active and visible on LinkedIn to attract new career opportunities or new business opportunities? For my services, I'm providing a 20% discount on my services for anyone that reaches out today. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. Actually, my LinkedIn profile link is there. Thank you. And just say, you know, always, whenever you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, always customize your message to connect. So just say you heard me on the 9 a.m. spot. I'm happy to connect with you next week. I'm moving tomorrow, so I probably won't get back to you right away. But as soon as I've settled into my new home, I'll reach back out to you. I'm happy to have a call with you, do a LinkedIn assessment for you, and just talk a bit more about how I can assist you with building the right profile to attract the opportunities that you want.
Thank you so much. I just want to add to that. I just signed up to be a client.
That's right. I'm working on your profile next week.
Mine is a disaster. Okay. I didn't think it was but the thing is, you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
I didn't think it was a disaster, but after you walked me through it, I said, oh my God, I'm a dummy.
Oh, you have a lot of good elements, but you have a really great career history that needs to be just kind of a bit more, you know, organized so that people
Exactly.
understand what you
But
do.
we don't know what we don't know.
That's
I mean,
right. So anyway,
this
anyone
is-
who has questions, and
Yeah.
even if you're not looking for help in terms of services, as I mentioned earlier, as a LinkedIn a coach and expert, I do put out a lot of good content about LinkedIn regularly. So if you just want kind of tips and tricks and guidance in terms of my posts, you know, please connect with me too, and you'll see all that once we get connected. So no pressure to sign on for service, but just connect with me either way. I'd love to have you part of my network as well.
Sabita, thank you so much for today. This was very, very insightful and very insightful and really, really tremendous. I want to thank everybody for attending, and my apologies if we couldn't get to all the questions.
Yeah.
However, I think you can probably reach out to Sabita directly if you'd like,
Wonderful.
and she can help.
Marie-France, thanks for your endorsement too. I just saw that. Really appreciate it.
And you can reach out to
I worked
LinkedIn,
together
of
with
course.
KPMG a few years ago as well. So see, you know, that's how LinkedIn works. It just brings you back together, people from your former life, which is really,
Really, really tremendous. And just one last thing is there's no more, maybe you'll cheer, there's no more 9 a.m. spots for the next 2 weeks. Okay, because frankly, I'm webinar out and I'm taking a holiday and we're done here. So we'll see you again. There's going to be some stuff coming up down the road. And thank you again, Sabita. And I want to wish everybody a great rest of your summer and enjoy and all the best to you.
Enjoy your
Take
time
care.
off, Bruce. Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
everybody. Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.